Good day, students. Welcome to A Plus Model School, Otomodo, Osun State. Today we'll be taking the subject biology, and we'll be talking about the topic reproductive system in vertebrates. 1. Reproductive system in vertebrates. In this topic, we'll be talking about so many things. It's a broad topic, so this is just going to be a kind of summary. A comprehensive note will be sent along with this video. You can download to have the comprehensive note. So I'll just be talking about the key points and explaining some things. Now, under this topic, we're going to talk about so many things. We're going to talk about reproductive system in birds and mammals. Under that, we talk about the structure of the male and female reproductive system. We talk about parts of the reproductive system and their functions. We talk about structures of the male and female gametes, which is the sperm and the ovum. We're going to talk about the difference between male and female reproductive organs. Now, the first subtopic we'll be talking about is reproductive system in vertebrates. Before we forge forward, we need to know what reproduction means, we need to know what reproductive system means, and we need to know what vertebrates means. Now, reproduction is the act of giving birth to young ones. Reproduction is the act of giving birth to young ones. Every living thing tends to reproduce. Every living thing reproduce. Every living thing reproduce. Either the one you can see, either the one you cannot see, they all reproduce in one way or the other. So the act of giving birth to young ones or the act of giving birth to offspring is called reproduction. Now, reproductive system. These are all the systems in your body that works together to carry out reproduction. Any system involved in carrying out reproduction is called reproductive system. Let's talk about vertebrate. Vertebrate is an animal with a backbone. Any animal that has backbone is called vertebrate. Now, we want to talk about reproductive system in vertebrates. Reproductive system in vertebrates. We said the male reproductive system of birds, which is called cock, consists of a pair of testes found near the kidney. That means the testis is found near the kidney. And this sperm duct runs from each testis. That means the testis produce has a kind of duct which runs from each of the testes and opens into the cloaca. It opens to the cloaca, and the sperm cells accumulate at the end of the sperm duct. That means the sperm duct that is attached to the testis runs through and opens into a kind of cloaca, and sperms are being accumulated at the end of the sperm ducts. As the male cloaca, this is where the sperm is being accumulated. As the male cloaca gets in contact with the female during mating, sperm cells are transferred into the female. If mating means copulation, when male and female comes together to have a sexual intercourse. So when this happens, a sperm is being released from the cloaca into the female reproductive system, or the female reproductive system, and which the female takes in. So as the male cloaca gets in contact in the female during mating, sperm cells are transferred into the female reproductive system. Now, we want to talk about the reproductive system, the male reproductive system in mammals. The male reproductive system in mammals. The male reproductive system, and this consists of the male sex organ. The male sex organs, and they are the testes. They are mainly the testes. The testes is the main male sex organs, and these are in pairs. When I say in pairs, that means there are two, and are contained in the scrotal sacs outside the body in order to keep them under a temperature. The reason why this testis is not inside the body is because it is outside our body because of the temperature. so that the temperature can be controlled under a temperature lower than 37 degrees Celsius for optimum production of sperms. That means if the temperature is more than 37 degrees Celsius, that means it might hinder the production of sperms. And sperms are produced in the seminiferous tubules of the testes and are stored in tubes of the epididymis. That means in mammals, sperm are being stored in the what? In the seminiferous tubules of the testes and are stored in the tubes of the epididymis. That means the organ that stores the sperm is called what? Epididymis. And it is being produced from the seminiferous tubules. The sperm then travel through the sperm duct, which is the vas deferens, to the urethra. Liquid nutrient is added to the sperm from the seminal vesicles and pituitary gland to form the semen. During mating, which is the intercourse, which is sexual intercourse, the semen is discharged into the female vagina through the penis. So this is how sperm is being released from the seminiferous tubules to the testes, to the epididymis, to the sperm duct, which takes in the liquid nutrient and being later deposited or discharged into the female vagina. So this is about the male sex organs, which is mainly the testes. Now let's talk about the female sex organs. The female sex organs, they are called the what? Ovaries, which are inside the abdomen. That one is not outside like the male. The male testis is outside in the scrotum sac, and the main reason why it is outside is because of the what? To control the temperature for the production of good or healthy sperm. Now, the female sex organs are called ovaries, which are inside the abdomen. And these female sex organs produces eggs, which are released into the opening of the oviduct and move into the opening of the oviduct and move down the funnel with the aid of cilia in the oviducal funnel. I take that again. The female sex organs are called ovaries, which are inside the abdomen. These produce eggs. That means the female sex organ produces eggs, which are released into the opening of the oviduct and moved down the funnel with the aid of the cilia in the oviducal funnel. The oviduct leads to the uterus or the womb. You can also call the uterus womb. That means from the oviduct, it has a funnel that leads into what? To the uterus. Humans have a single uterus, while rats have a double uterus. And that's why you can see that rats can give birth to as many offsprings at a time. They can give birth to as much as 10. It's because they have a double uterus, while human has only single uterus that can house a fertilized egg. A fertilized egg is retained in the uterus where it becomes embedded in the wall. That means it becomes sticked or gummed to the wall. The vagina leads from the uterus to the outside of the body. The cervix lies at the end of the uterus, and this closes after fertilization to avoid further entrance of the sperm and foreign bodies. That means when the egg is being fertilized, there is a cervix that closes the entrance of the uterus, so to avoid any further sperm to go into the uterus to fertilize the egg once the egg is being fertilized. So I believe we've tried to explain some things about the reproductive system in birds, try to talk about the reproductive system in mammals, which is the male sex organs and the female sex organs. Now, at the end of the lesson, I believe you should be able to understand the significance about the testes and ovary in the reproductive system of mammals. You should be able to understand or mention at least 3 parts of the female reproductive system. 3 parts of the female reproductive system. Now, let's go to the next subtopic. The next subtopic is part of the reproductive system and their functions. Part of the reproductive system and their functions. Firstly, we'll be talking about the reproductive system of birds and their function. The reproductive system of birds and their function. Now, I want to talk about testes. The function of testes. Testis is involved in the production of sperm. That means it is the main organ used in the production of sperm. It carries and accumulates sperms, point of transfer of sperms, point of transfer of sperms. I'm sorry for that, that's a repetition. Production of sperm cells, it carries and accumulates sperms, and it's also the point of transfer of sperms to other places of the body. Now, let's talk about the ovary, follicle, and oviduct. Ovary, follicle, and oviduct. So ovary is responsible for the production of eggs. It is responsible for the production of eggs. It contains the immature ovum, that means the ovum that has not been matured, and coil duct that leads to the what? Urodium. It contains the coiled duct that leads to the urodium. Now, below you will see some part of reproductive system of mammals and their function. We've talked about the birds. Let's talk some part of the reproductive system of mammals and their function. We'll be using a diagram to explain this. We'll be using a diagram to explain this. And as I'm talking, please just go through the diagram. The part that I'm talking about, try and observe the part very well. The first one we'll be talking about the testes. I think we've said so much about the testes. There's no need of saying it, but let me just run through it. Testes contain coiled tubules called seminiferal tubules, in which actively dividing cells produce the male gamete sperm cell. The testes also store the sperm produced in addition to the production of sex hormones, testosterone. This hormone is responsible for the development of male secondary sexual characteristics. So the testis is responsible for producing a kind of hormone, and that's why you know that this is a male, this is a female, because during sex, the female they tend to show some characteristics different from the male. Let me use an example. Example is a goat. When a goat wants to mate, you can notice that it started making a kind of unusual noise, and a kind of odor comes. All these things comes from the what? Test, because this is what postulates it as a male organism or a male animal. Now let's talk about the vas difference. The function of the vas difference. You can see the vas difference. Okay. Vas difference, this is the sperm duct which continues from the epididymis. You can remember I told you that epididymis is where the sperm is being stored. So this is the sperm duct which continues from the epididymis. It serves as the pathway through which the sperm runs from the epididymis to the urethra. I can believe you can see the urethra there. From the epididymis to what? To the urethra, which is the tip of the penis. Now let's talk about the penis. The penis. This is made up of spongy erectile tissue. I believe you can see that. This is made up of spongy erectile tissue, which is a sensitive urinogenital organ, very sensitive. This part of the body of the reproductive system is very, very sensitive. The penis, when erected, discharges semen through the female vagina into the oviduct. That means this is the exit place of the semen. This is where the sperm, this is where the sperm is being transferred to the female vagina. So this is an exit, it's like an opening. It has an opening that releases sperm to the what? To the female vagina. Let's talk about the prostate gland. Prostate gland secretes substances that help to energize and transport the sperms. So this is a kind of catalyst. It helps to secrete a kind of catalyst or energy that helps the movement of sperm or the transportation of sperm. Now let's talk about the Cowper's gland. Cowper's gland. I'm trying to bring almost all the male reproductive system, the part of the male reproductive system, and the explanation. You will have the comprehensive note attached to this video, so you can just run through the notes and read for yourself. Now the Cowper's gland. Cowper's gland, secretion from this gland helps to normalize the alkaline concentration of the sperm. That means it helps to condition the alkalinity of the sperm. If the sperm is so acidic, it might destroy the egg. So it controls the alkalinity of the sperm. So that is that of the male reproductive system of mammals. Now let's talk about the female reproductive system of a mammal. The female reproductive system of a mammal and their function. We'll be talking about the ovary. The ovary contains several thousand of potential eggs. Called primary oocyte. It is called primary oocyte. The ovary produces the female gamete. Is the system that is responsible for the production of the female gamete. So you don't forget that I said the ovary contains how many? Thousands of potential eggs. That means you have thousands of eggs in every reproductive system, which is called the ovary of a female animal or a female mammal. You have thousands of eggs inside called what? Oocyte. Please note that oocyte, that is OOCCYTES. You see it in your notes, the note that has been attached to this. Now, another one is oviduct. The oviduct. This release eggs are received by a funnel-like structure known as the fallopian tube. That means when the egg is being ripe, it's released into a kind of a funnel-like structure known as what? Fallopian tube or the oviduct, which serves as a pathway for the passage of ovum. It serves as a pathway for the passage of ovum. Fertilization occurs in the oviduct. That means when the egg is being produced in the ovary, it travels through a kind of funnel-like structure known as what? Fallopian tube or the oviduct. That means another name for oviduct is called fallopian tube. And this is where it's being stationed for the reception of sperm for its fertilization. That means fertilization takes place in this place. Another one we're going to talk about is the uterus. This is a muscular structure connected to the outside or exterior through the vagina. Is a muscular structure connected to the outside or exterior through the vagina. Its glandular lining serves to nourish the embryo in the early stages of development. It nourishes, that means after the egg is being fertilized by sperm, it turns to an embryo. That's why they say the early stages of the embryo. So I mean, its glandular lining helps to nourish. It nourishes the embryo at the early stages of the development of the embryo. Its smooth muscles in the walls greatly increase in number during pregnancy. That means after an animal has taken in, that means the embryo, it has turned to pregnancy. Its smooth muscles in the walls greatly increase in number during pregnancy. Contraction of the uterus eventually expel the fetus. When the uterus begins to contract, it expels the fetus and its placenta during birth. That means when the animal wants to give birth and the young ones wants to come outside, which is called the fetus. Until you give birth, you don't call it offspring, but inside you still call it a fetus. So after contraction, the uterus helps in the contraction of the uterus, and it expels the fetus and its placenta during birth. Now let's talk about the cervix. This lies as the ventral of the uterus. This is the ventral of the uterus. It usually closes after fertilization to avoid further entrance of sperms and other foreign bodies. I think we've talked about something like this. When the egg is being fertilized, normally the egg doesn't need any sperm to fertilize it again. So there is a kind of a lining that closes up the uterus to avoid other objects coming in. And that's why when you see when someone gets pregnant, it's not possible for that person to get pregnant again. Once it gets pregnant, there is a kind of lining that closes up the uterus to avoid other objects, either sperm or any other things, to come inside the uterus to protect the fetus, or let me say to protect the embryo. Now, the last one we'll be talking about here is the vagina. This serves as the receptor of the sperm cells ejaculated by the male. This is like the receptor, a opening at the end of the the female reproductive organ that accommodates or that collects sperms from the male reproductive system. Now, let me stop here for this class. Next class we'll try and continue other because this topic is somehow wide. Like I told you, a comprehensive note has been attached to this topic. If you find any part of the things that I've said somehow difficult, you can just check the note. You have the full explanation. When you read through, you understand more. Now, the assignment that I'll be giving you for this class, though we're still going to continue next class, but the assignment I'm going to give you is list 3 parts of male reproductive system and their function. I believe you should be able to do that. These 3 parts of the male reproductive system and their function. Another one, what is significant about the testes and ovaries in the reproductive system of mammals? Tell me the significance of testes and ovaries in the reproductive system of mammals. So this brings us to the end of the class. We'll continue next class, probably later this week. We'll continue, and I say see you in next class, and God bless you abundantly. Thank you.